Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Nympho Life podcast. I'm your host Polina, and today I'm here with one of my best friends in Prague, Shaun.
Hi.
So, Shaun, welcome to the Nympho Life podcast.
Cool, thank you for having me.
Please tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself. Where you come from, what do you do, anything you want to share.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Shaun. I'm from South Africa. I've been living in Prague for about 5 years, going on 6. I think we've known each other for, since before like the pandemic and stuff.
To start with, to kick it off, please tell me about your first sex-related memory or your first encounter with what you thought sex is, or maybe even before sex in general, like intimacy. How did it all begin for you?
I think it goes back to, I must have been 7 years old or something. Like I was super, super young and I was just like a boy. And there was this classmate of mine, this female. And like, we're just kids. We met like behind this like bush. And then I think she maybe like saw on TV or something, like what to do. Because I remember like I was so confused and like nothing happened except like I don't know if it was me or her, but like somehow like I pulled my pants down. And then I felt like, fuck, this is like wrong. Like there's something like wrong about this. And because also I was confused and I didn't know like what to do. I remember she said like, oh, she knows like what to do. She like,
and wait, she was also around 7?
Yeah.
Or she was older?
No. She was like my age, which was like strange. But then she's like, yeah, I know what to do. And then I felt like this was really wrong. So then I pulled my pants up and then I just kind of like got out of there. But I don't remember like if she was taking her clothes off or whatever. But like we're just kids like fooling around. But yeah, very confusing. Like I don't know if that's dramatic or anything, but like I think that's my earliest, let's say, memory of like anything. It's not really sex related, but it's like
intimacy, let's say.
Kind of, yeah. I guess. I don't know, but it's also kids. I think kids also like are curious by nature and they like want to explore stuff. So maybe it's more of like a curious thing, but that's kind of like my earliest memory.
Okay. Okay. And how was it then when you were growing up? Did you, for example, encounter porn at some point? Was it through friends, or maybe you found something in your parents' drawer? Because this is also quite common story.
Yeah.
And how was it in school? If your parents talked to you about it?
My parents got divorced when I was like super young, and then I had like a stepdad like my whole life, like one stepdad, and he's been around since I think I was in like nappies, like diapers, and he had 2 sons from a different like marriage. A previous marriage. So he was also like a divorcee. I think that's what they call peeps. And at one time they were like his 2 sons were like living with us, and I was the youngest out of like all the kids. Like I have a sister, she's older, and these 2 like let's say stepbrothers are like older than me. One is a year older and another one's I think maybe 3 years older. And I remember that I think the first time I was exposed to like pornographic material, I think I might have been maybe 12. And it was like in the form of like a magazine, like a nudie mag, like a Hustler. And my let's just call him stepbrother, like went to the shop, somehow like got this, and then like showed it to me. Yeah, it was like kind of strange. I think I went through puberty. I was 13 when I went through puberty, and that was like it wasn't too strange. But I remember like when I had my first wet dream, I was like 13, and it was also super confusing. Like,
did you know what happened to you, or it was just like, what is happening to me?
It was.
Am I dying?
very, very much like that. The second one, it's like I woke up. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then like I went to the bathroom. I remember this. I went to the bathroom, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I don't know why, but like I'm not really that close to like my stepdad. So I went to my mom and I was like, you know, there's something like up. And then she like had a look and she's like, oh no, that's a wet dream. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, so you asked your mom about it?
I went to my mom and I asked about it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And like, that was like the start and end of that conversation,
which
sucks because I feel like there should be a continuation of like, you know, if your kid is like going to you with the stuff and it's like, okay, cool, well, there's like a bigger thing to unpack and like, you know, let's talk about it. But that's just my perspective. Maybe, I don't know how my mom felt about it. Maybe she was like, you know, afraid or nervous or just like, you know, thought like maybe someone else should be dealing with it. But it was very strange. Like my family life or my childhood growing up like in our house was very strange because it was like super progressive but also conservative.
Yeah.
It's like super weird because we would joke about sex and these sexual windows and like, you know, make these sexual remarks and jokes, but we never had any kind of real conversations about sex, sexual intimacy, relating to other, you know, opposite sex and other people and stuff like that. So it's such a weird thing because it was always like this lighthearted joking about it, but it's like, okay, let's actually talk about some like, you know, real shit, some like, you know, education shit. Like making like sexual jokes and stuff like that, like it's kind of cool. But I feel like you should do that as well as, you know, handle the real stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Because like hindsight is 2020, but I feel that these jokes are just or were just a mask for like, okay, let's not like, you know, kind of go there. We mask things with humor so that it's like, you know, just kind of lighthearted and we don't get into some real uncomfortable conversations. And like uncomfortable conversations need to be like had, especially like when you're young, impressionable, and just trying to make sense of everything around you.
Yeah, definitely. All right. What I also want to talk to you about, tell me first, what has been your experience of, let's say, puberty? How did you deal with the changes in your body? Did you have some, let's say, helpful information at hand about what was happening with you? And how was this transition for you in general?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's a really good topic because I guess from my point of view, like I have my experience and like this type of thing like matters to me because hindsight, I wish like I had a different experience, but that's okay. So for me, hitting puberty, I hit puberty, I think at like 13, and it wasn't like super weird, but I became like really self-conscious about like, you know, my body, became very self-conscious about like my, let's say, status among like other boys. Like a lot of the boys in that like primary school, like when you were like 12, 13, like this is something that like we were speaking about, but not speaking about like having a good conversation about like what's happening. It was more like, oh, look at these changes. Oh, I have this. Like, what do you have? Oh, that guy's got like, you know, pubic hair. Like, oh, I don't know, pubic hair. When is it going to happen to me? You know, shit like that. Like kind of comparing and like kind of competing, I guess. I kept to myself like a lot. I had a lot of strange feelings, a lot of anger. I started getting like some like muscles. I started getting stronger. That was super rad. I definitely like was liking girls and trying to like, you know, wanting to like kiss girls and like, you know, get girls' attention, which is I think cool too.
Yes. That's when you actually, I think, also start being interested like romantically in an opposite gender. You realize that it's not just this friendship vibe anymore, or like not with everybody. It's a friendship vibe.
Also, I cared more about how I was perceived and like, you know, the changes that were happening with me. I was a lot more apprehensive about approaching people, approaching girls especially. Then like kind of like fear of rejection started like kind of like happening. And I started caring more about like how I was perceived and what people thought of me.
All right, and tell me, please, in general, how your understanding of, let's say, masculinity, being a man, has been developing. Where were you getting the ideas from of what is masculine or what isn't? Were you somehow maybe also comparing yourself to others based on specific criteria of how you defined masculinity, and how do you see it now?
So when I was growing up, I had like this stepdad, and it seemed kind of like old school, kind of like this authoritarian figure that's like, what I say goes, it's my way or the highway. Like, whatever I say, you're not even allowed to ask anything about it. Like, don't challenge it at all, or don't even be curious about whatever it is that like I'm saying. Just accept it and move on, because I'm the head of the house and I'm the authoritative figure, which really pissed me off, because there were times when I was genuinely curious about certain rules and certain things, and when I would like ask out of curiosity, it was just met with like, I'm the child, you're the adult, that's it, end of story. Like, I have no fucking agency, I have no voice. He was very much like, oh, boys don't cry, men don't cry. Are you a man or are you a mouse? If you're gonna cry, don't let anybody see you cry. You have to be tough, shit like that. And it's just like, it definitely made a part of me like into like a monster. And the good thing about it is that it can lead to some perseverance or tenacity, or just kind of like, motivation for something. But it comes at an expense. I wasn't in touch with my feelings. Meanwhile, I was quite a sensitive like boy, like quite a sensitive kid. Like, things affected me. Like, I felt things. I felt like, I was empathetic, like, and it caused a lot of like internal issues, because like there's like this internal like fight between like, I'm feeling these things, but like I shouldn't be feeling these things because I'm a fucking like I'm a boy, I'm strong, I'm a man, like and then I would just push all that shit down, push it down. And I would like also, because of the way that I'd been treated, I would try and push people away and kind of try and have people perceive me as like, angry and strong, so they'll leave me the fuck alone so that they wouldn't fuck with me. But it's just like a defense mechanism. Like, I did that for a very long time. And like at the height of it, it was like when I was, I think, 14, 15. And then like it kind of settled down a little bit, like slightly, like in my teenage years, and then like I still carry that like with me to some extent. Mm-hmm. But in terms of like masculinity, like I've done like a lot of work on myself to really define for myself like what masculinity is. I didn't rely on someone else to like tell me what it is. Like, I decide what it is like for me.
Yeah.
And I think if you're able to kind of be secure and just understand that like as a human, you have these different experiences and you have these different, let's say, sides of you. Like, sometimes I'm like super soft, and sometimes like I'm hard, mm-hmm. And sometimes it feels good to be hard, and sometimes it feels really good to be soft. And I think it's just important to have people you can trust around you, so you can show them these different sides of you. And if you're met with a reaction that isn't like favorable to you, definitely say something about it, because maybe it's just the other person's, let's say, trauma or defense mechanism. So give them the benefit of the doubt. But if people are around you and they're not giving you the, let's say, reaction when you're being honest and open with them, go somewhere else. I think also what's helped me like a lot is this idea. It's kind of like a counterintuitive idea. People think that if you train in martial arts that you're going to be like aggressive and like, violent, when it's counterintuitive, because like when you train in these different things, you kind of get the stuff that's inside you like out, mm-hmm. so that you can be like civil and like, chill and just kind of be secure that like, okay, cool. I don't have to like posture. I don't have to like, kind of like be a peacock. It's like,
yeah. Because you release the aggression and then you can
because
like, function like normally without any
Yeah.
feelings kind of intoxicating you.
Yeah, you got like nothing to prove. Like, you know,
Mhm.
you're okay. You're not looking for external validation.
Yeah.
Like, you're just kind of like, cool, this is me. Like, and I think it's also important for people to do things like that in all the different aspects of being like human. You know,
Mhm.
you should do something where it makes you feel secure physically. What you should do things that make you feel secure emotionally, especially for men, because there aren't any role models and like, you know, good male role models. And there's so many, I guess, like young boys who are transitioning to like kind of teenagers, manhood, that are kind of like looking around.
Yeah, and they see Andrew Tate's and
it's a it's a problem, because we have these like impressionable people that are looking for an answer, and they're not getting quality answers, and it's to the detriment of like society, because I mean, like, I can't even imagine like what it must feel like for someone to know that, like, you know, their teenage son has, like, you know, latched on to Andrew Tate as like a father figure, and it's like, fuck, man. Yeah, it's just hectic. It's just hectic.
I really think that it is harder for boys in the world where we live in, with all the toxic masculinity ideas, the fact that men cannot be vulnerable, or that, you know, all these comments that you cannot cry in public, you have to be tough, etc. I truly think that it's harder for men to be in the society than for women. I think in big part thanks to feminism and all the achievements, because before women were expected also to be a certain way, but just like the opposite way. You had to be soft, you had to be agreeable, you have to be always kind of nice to deal with, you have to be caring, you have to love kids. With feminism now, basically, you can be whatever the fuck you want. You can be strong, you can be powerful, you don't have to have kids, you can be career oriented. So this helped a lot. But I think, and I hope, the same will come for men, where it will be much more acceptable to also be whoever you want and be able to express your feelings and vulnerability, because it is important. Because, as you said, basically, if you don't, then it builds up inside, and then it anyhow needs a release, and sometimes it releases as an aggression or somehow like depression, because repressed feelings are never good. And for me personally, being a woman and having seeing my male family members, like my dad, my brother, also my ex-partners, partners, being vulnerable, for me it was such a magical moment, not in the way of like that. Of course, I was hurt to see this, but beautiful, because for me it was the pinnacle of trust that I was given as a partner or as a daughter or as a sister, that they trust me enough to be able to show the real feelings, the real selves. And for me, this was just the most precious moment ever. So I'm sure if all men felt so safe to express those feelings, and if all women also understood how important it is, and were not influenced by these ideas and concepts that men should express their feelings in a certain way or not express them, the world would be a much better place, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with you. Both men and women should be able to feel all feelings, all vulnerabilities. Should be able to cry, should be able to fight, should be able to love, to hate, everything. It's the human experience.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next segment of today's episode, which is the future of sex and SexTech. So, Shaun, let me start by asking you, what do you think SexTech is as an industry in general, and what are some of its parts? Like, what actually belongs to this industry?
I think that it's like an industry that's a lot bigger than people think. It's a lot bigger than what I think. After this podcast, I'll definitely do some research to find out what the like market cap is and how much.
I can tell you, in this year, according to Statista, it's estimated at $37.2 billion US dollars.
Fuck yeah!
Yes.
Is that worldwide? Or?
Yes, and of course it continues to grow, and there's some money to be made in this industry.
Hell yeah! I think it makes sense, right? Because the way that I think about technology, I love technology. I've always loved technology, and the way that I think about technology is that it's essentially anything that is a tool is technology. For me personally, I have this amazing knife, this Japanese knife made of like Damascus steel. And it's beautiful, and I love it because I feel like a knife is probably one of the first pieces of technology I feel that human civilization had, because it dates back and it's a tool, but it's because it's a tool, it's a piece of technology. But this is how I feel and how I believe. I might be wrong, but I like to believe this.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, because it doesn't have to be necessarily digital.
Yeah.
Basically, some solution that people come up with to solve a certain problem or help them do something. And yes, SexTech, the general definition is basically the intersection of technology and whatever it is helping with is sex or intimacy related. So far what exists, of course, sex toys, and they have been there for a while. First, simple, 28,000 years ago, the first dildo was invented, which was a stone.
Wow.
Because I think it's the first recorded one as an artifact, let's say. But of course, as soon as humans were created, or evolved from the apes, they started having sex, and then they started thinking about other ways to please themselves.
Okay.
So of course these are sex toys, and with digital age it became more digitalized or connected to the internet, Bluetooth. You can have like Wi-Fi connected toys, but also it's education, which is also part of sexuality. Everything connected to communication. So we are talking about the apps that can teach you how to communicate, or in general get your information from. Then they're all, let's say, recent kind of inventions, or the inventions that were somehow predicted by sci-fi movies. So it's sex robots, sex dolls.
Yeah.
And these days, which is, I guess, the hottest topic, is we have the AI. So let's talk a little bit about specific, let's say, types, especially the recent ones, of sex tech, and maybe make some predictions for the future, if it has the living potential or not.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds exciting.
So first one is a term that I learned pretty recently, and I really like how it sounds, because it sounds really fun. And this type of sex tech is called Teledildonics.
Teledildonics.
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds funky.
It does. It's a mouthful. Funny intended.
Good one. So Teledildonics, also sometimes called cyberdildonics. This is also a cool term. Are basically remote controlled toys that can give you some physical sensations that are transmitted through a data link that connects the participants. So think remote control sex toys that you use with a partner on the distance.
Nice.
And they can be operated remotely by another person via Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, apps, connect to content, and even games.
Interesting. Games.
Yeah, I guess maybe some sort of, I don't know, if you go like achieve a certain like award or something, you unlock a certain vibration.
Yeah. Okay.
For example.
Makes
So
sense.
what do you think of this? Do you think it has potential?
Oh,
Would you try something like this?
For 100%, it has potential. From my perspective, like as a male in the sex, let's say or sexual toys,
Mm-hmm.
there's like a disproportionate amount of like sexual toys for females versus like males.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so with the sex tech, and how you can control, let's say, the pleasure of your partner from far away. I can easily picture how you would do that if, like, the man controlling the pleasure for the partner of the female. But how would the female be able to control the pleasure for the man? Like, what sort of device would this? I mean, is there actually a device already that exists where like you put it on your cock and then it like just feels good?
Yes, precisely. For women, it's all sorts of like internal stimulations, so vibrators, or external, so like clitoral stimulation devices, or I guess butt plugs. But for males, it's basically it's kind of like a flashlight thing, like the container, let's say, for your dick. I mentioned that similarly, basically the person who is able to control the device of the partner can change the frequency of the stimulation, the type of the stimulation. Use case of teledildonics, if we're talking about the remote use, is either you using it on a partner or both partners at the same time have some devices. So it's like, you know, connected experiences, but that you both receive pleasure.
Interesting.
So through the devices that you can remotely control.
Yeah, I'm huge. I'm a huge proponent of this. I think it's like super fucking cool, and like there can be so many different, like, let's say, integrations with these things.
Yeah.
But I had the idea of like what you were saying, like previously, like how it would work for female to male, and I had the idea of like, you know, kind of like these like fleshlights where it's like, cool, it's like not really a fleshlight, but it's like this, let's say, contraption that's like this, and it's got like a hole for your cock, and then this thing is like on this motorized, let's say, up and down thing, so you control like how fast it goes.
Yeah,
and stuff
so
like
kind of like a hand job.
Yeah, it's kind of like a hand job. You just like kind of stick your cock in here, and then it's just kind of like.
I think it already exists. I saw one of the exhibits of this yearly fair, like tech fair. And it was actually that basically the device that like a base and then had some kind of like a hand,
like a grip thing.
Grip, exactly, and you could like control the frequency of and like the basically the frequency of the movements.
I've seen this, but I didn't think about like, oh, this could be connected to like an app that your partner can use, and you just like kind of put it on there, and it's like fuck. Like that type of shit.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
The story I read when I was preparing for this was actually very hilarious. Called Connected to Teledildonics. So there was a case of the Australian man. His name was Sam Summers or something like this. And allegedly, he was using chastity device, you know, chastity cage.
Okay, cool.
For his cock.
Yeah, for his cock.
Yeah, and it was remote control, meaning like locking it.
Oh fuck.
Virtually, you know. So somebody was like locking it, and he could not unlock it, and then apparently the access to whatever the like cloud application that was basically holding the access to the control of it was hacked.
Fucking hell. That's fucking unfortunate.
Wait for it. Fuck. And then basically the hackers started blackmailing him send them $1,000 worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah, send me Bitcoin and I'll free your cock, dog. Oh Jesus. This poor fucking guy.
So that was the case. It was like a Vice article from 2012 or something. And then I'm reading further, like in the article, I was like, oh fuck. This was also connected to the questions of like privacy and like personal data, all this shit that basically is equal to interacting with technology and basically the data security is the hot topic now. And then I'm reading like further. So apparently this was fake news, and this was like a setup or like a hoax created by some comedian. But it was actually based on the fact that some research has found the flaws in the system. So there was actually this kind of device existing, which is like remote controlled chastity device, and you could actually break in. So potentially it could be used in this case. And these are one of the, let's say, threats of technology adaptation in the sense. Because I got to this article by thinking, what are the threats connected to data loss, information fraud? Because everyone's saying, okay, like the dildos that are smart or whatever the masturbation devices, they can connect the data. And I was like, okay, but then who can use the frequency of my organs against me? Like, okay, maybe just for the better, to create like a better toys or, I don't know, education systems. But I guess when it comes to data, it's not just your, let's say, sex data, but also your date of birth. You can have your cars connected, stuff like this. And as long as it's not secure, like the system behind it is somehow not safe, it can be still lost and somehow used against you. If it's, for example, some chatbot or something, and you write some really, really kinky shit, or I don't know, maybe something that society would find somehow extreme, and then someone just takes this information and blackmails you with this, that it will be sent to your colleagues or something like this, or your family, then in this way, I think people are really vulnerable because it's anonymous. Like the interaction with technology, people can, be sharing stuff and information much more than they do with any human.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the hack that happened on Ashley Maddison, that website.
It was
I think it was 2014 or something.
If I remember correctly, this is the website which positioned itself literally as a platform for finding a mistress or like an affair, right?
Yeah, it was crazy. I'll never forget it because I think it was like during 2013. I was working at this ad agency in South Africa, and Google Display Network banner ads came on, and it was for Ashley Maddison, and it said, what did it say? It was very like super tongue in cheek. It said something to the lines of cheat without the guilt or some shit like that. It's like, and it was like crazy. It was just insane. It was just like encouraging people to be unfaithful.
Yeah, how fucking crazy is this though?
That positioning was like, it was like shit. Like, I mean, cool, you're a platform and you do that thing, and that's like, I don't know if it's like moral, ethical, but like if you're a platform and you do that, like cool, you're just a platform and you say this is what we do. But I mean, to like go and put adverts like out to say like, hey, like, do this. And like, fucking, but that hack happened and
and it was like all identities, right? So,
it's crazy.
And I heard that there were thousands of people, and then they basically linked it to public domain, right?
I think so.
That all the users that were on the platform, the names were out, so potentially their spouses could see if their partner was registered on the platform, right?
That's how my parents got divorced.
Really?
No, I'm joking. No, fucking
but I'm sure like some people can say that.
Yeah, like I feel like that type of shit ruins people's lives. But I mean, these hacks, like this is what I don't understand when these tech companies, they have, they're always moving fast and breaking things and like, kind of like shipping and iterating, and that's great and everything. But like you gotta have like your security like foolproof, especially when you're in, let's say, when you're handling super sensitive information, like like medical fucking documents.
The one thing that is particularly hot these days is, of course, AI.
Mm-hmm.
So what are, let's say, possibilities of AI in this realm, in the realm of SexTech?
Yeah.
So it can be chatbots.
Mm-hmm.
I found a really interesting chatbot that I'm really excited to explore further. It is a chatbot by a platform called Be Educated, which is a platform for sex ed, basically.
Nice.
And it is an AI sex coach.
Cool.
Or more, let's say, so like sex coach and therapist.
Okay.
It's interesting because I think the way they created it is basically how you can train AI to think as a certain character or personality. I guess in this sense they fed it general like sexology books and resources. So thus it now is able to answer questions, because ChatGPT, I use it a lot, but when it comes to sex related topics, it can basically tell you that, you know, this question is against our guidelines.
Oh no, is it against? Oh, man.
Yeah, but basically what I do is I try to say, you know, no, you misunderstood. Other types of the AI related sex tech. So it can be also virtual companions.
Yeah.
For example, again, in the form of the chatbot. It can be even holograms. That's what also I have seen. The one country that is usually in the front of the progress is Japan. So in Japan, I don't remember the term unfortunately, but there is basically a type of people that somehow choose solitary confinement almost voluntarily.
Okay.
So they don't choose to interact with outside world. They mostly stay by themselves at home with their computer, play games, or I don't know, watch whatever, like consume content.
Yeah.
And they are not really comfortable with interacting with the outside world for whatever reasons, or like society, I don't know, upbringing, their personal choice. So they are using it already, because in Japan there was created this kind of AI in terms of the, let's say, brain in the background, but on the forefront is a literal hologram of like an anime character, which is your virtual companion. So it can be like your girlfriend, and it already like exists, I think.
That's cool. It reminds me of like Blade Runner, the updated version of Blade Runner. Sounds pretty cool.
Do you think for society at large, is this something that is like neutral, or is it beneficial, or is it something that brings a lot of dangers in terms of people being more and more alienated, or let's say choosing to be isolated and not choosing to develop their communication skills and being in touch with the outside world and finding real partners, real relationships with the actual person? What do you think of
Yeah, I think it's like we were saying earlier, like technology. I see it as like a tool, and I'll go back to what I was saying about like the knife, right? It's a tool, and like you can use a knife to like cut meat, cut things, like cut, let's say, branches to make a shelter, to keep yourself warm, like, you know, that type of thing. You can also use that fucking knife to stab a motherfucker. So it's like, it's both, it depends who is wielding the tool. So it depends really on the use case of the person, of like that's utilizing the technology. So I believe that it's both great and it's both like super shit. Let's say that we have these like AI generated like girlfriends, and they are very similar to, let's say, these live streamers on OnlyFans, and like this person's like your girlfriend or whatever, or boyfriend, and then you don't leave the house, you just kind of like, you know, play video games or do whatever like in your home. And, you know, when you want companionship, you log on, you speak to this person, you develop like a relationship with this, I don't want to say person, but this agent. Very much like that film Her with Joaquin Phoenix. Cool.
Yeah.
You can do that. I think that doing it in a healthy way can help someone. Let's say the use case is like someone has agoraphobia, where they're too afraid to leave their house. And you can use this as a mechanism, as like first steps of like interacting with something that looks lifelike. And then it's like, okay, cool. And it's like first baby steps, and then we're kind of getting you out the house and helping.
Yeah.
And it could also be super shit because, you know, people that are, like you were saying in Japan, that are choosing to voluntarily stay at home and kind of not be a part of like social society or the social fabric of a community. I think that's also a problem, because then it just makes me think of like what kind of life you'll be living where there's no adversity or no kind of like tension between human relationships, because human relationships are fucking shit. but they're also super, super rewarding. Like, there's like the good and the bad, but I guess some people are more on the less risk safe side. Like for me, for instance, I am incredibly afraid of like being rejected and rejection, but it's not crippling to the point where it's hindering my fucking life. Perhaps there's some people where if they get rejected, they're just gonna like jump out the fucking window or something. Where it's like, it's too much. But then we need to know those people, we need to help those people, and we need to like create these tools to like help them if they want to be helped. Because also no one's gonna do anything or help themselves if they don't want to be helped. But there should be like a support system, definitely. I think it's great. I think like what's interesting is like if you have let's say if you're married and you have a spouse or you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and you both decide to have a monogamous relationship, what constitutes as cheating? Like, oh, I have this like AI agent chick that like I just see every now and then and fucking jerk off and like, you know, have this let's say fleshlight that connects to this AI agent, and then she basically is fucking jerking me off. Like, is that cheating? Because this thing doesn't exist, or you know?
Is it cheating if you have sex with a sex robot?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah.
I don't think it is, like, from my perspective.
Yeah.
But it depends on the person. I feel like if you're the type of person and then, like, you're always going to fuck the sex robot and your thoughts are more toward the sex robot than, like, your partner, then I think it's a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
So I think it's difficult, and I think you have to take it maybe by each use case, because imagine if you could just like have this sex robot that's foldable, you pack it in your luggage, and let's say you're going to go work on an oil rig for like fucking 10 months, and you take your sex robot with you. Your wife is hooked up to like the sex robot in some fucking strange way.
Yeah, that's actually a great use case.
And then you just like every night you're just absolutely destroying this fucking sex robot until the point where
Robo pussy.
Yeah, this robo pussy is fucking demolished, and there'll come a time, I guess, on the oil rig where maybe the robot like becomes like dysfunctional or can't service you anymore. Then what the fuck are you gonna do? Like,
I think this wouldn't be a bad thing to add to like employee benefits of people who have like corporate, you know, trips.
This makes a lot of sense.
Or Navy, for example.
Yeah, don't fuck a hooker. Fuck this
sex robot.
Yeah, it looks like your wife.
Actually, one of the use cases which can be philosophically debated a lot is for the people who have certain tendencies, sexual tendencies that I consider deviant. Yeah. Or just for people who maybe cannot find easily a partner to practice their kinks with, that are more, let's say, on extreme side.
Whenever humans like want something, when there's a demand, there's obviously going to be a supply. So someone will definitely figure out ways of making, you know, sex more accessible, easier. I don't know about cheaper, but you know, easier. I don't know about cheaper. But also, you know, AI agents, like, you know, pretending to be, let's say, your girlfriend or boyfriend or spouse, and also, like you were saying, you know, experimenting on some kinks, like for instance, CNC, consensual, non-consensual, like scenes with AI agents. I think we would treat these AI sex agents as how we would treat AI currently now in your, I guess, process of whatever it is that you're doing. So my process is cool. I have a goal that I want to achieve. So first thing I do is jump to AI to give me some sort of like, you know, structure or some sort of like value or information. But I don't take that just as is. Like, that's my first step. And then the second step is like, cool, I'm going through it, I'm editing, I'm thinking about other things, and then also deciding for myself like how valuable this information is to me. I think it's the same with these sex robots of the future. It'll be like, cool, I want to try a new kink, I want to try something new. it's too high risk to do it with my spouse or another person.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try it with this like AI agent. And then hopefully the response is like as close to human as possible. Try it a couple of times, see what works, what doesn't. Then bring it to like a human and say, cool, I want to try these things.
One big breakthrough that happened in sexual wellness is when sexual wellness products, or let's say sex toys, started being sold at the retailers that are not connected to sex. So Sephora, all the beauty websites these days in Czech Republic, there's Latino, there's Sephora worldwide, other retailers, they have the section called sexual wellness products where they sell lubricants, like post-intercourse wipes, and sex toys. And I think this was the biggest breakthrough, because when you see that together with your, tampons, makeup, foundation, lipstick, you can also get a lubricant or a new vibrator. This, when the mindset shifts and it becomes normalized. So I think with this development of it being more acceptable and people seeing that it's more and more part of life, normal part of life to have these things, spotlight is on the things which are still lacking, which is the ability of people to communicate about sex, because as the experience shows, none of us had a proper sex education, our generation, So I see the future in definitely the development of sex education technologies, both for adults, for teens, and for basically to be integrated in schools and universities. And in general, technologies or apps or AI coaches, chatbots that help already grown-up people, adults, to develop communication skills in the sexual, intimate realm.
Yeah, makes sense. I think it would definitely be beneficial, for instance, let's say a parent that wants to talk about, these issues or these, let's say, taboo subjects with their child, might not know how to approach it. But perhaps if they just ask an AI, how should I approach this? And then that's just, it's a starting point. It's definitely a starting point. And then that could actually get like a conversation going,
Yeah. Perfect. I think this was a really great and fruitful discussion we had. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. I fucking loved it. It's great.
Last segment of this episode is the question from the New Life community.
Okay.
So I had a person who asked a question which goes as follows. How to tell a partner about your kink? What if it will scare them away? It's not specified what kink, but I would imagine maybe it's something less common, not just like spanking or choking.
I think it's good to think about the kind of relationship that you have with your partner. And I think it's also good to perhaps do small things to try and, let's say, test the waters in a very kind of like relaxing environment and relaxing way, kind of like suggestive, but like, not like, outright, bombard them with stuff. So I know it's difficult, but it's very beneficial to take your partner out, like out of the house, out into a nice setting, a coffee shop, or like, go on a date, somewhere that's, not threatening, or there's no kind of like intention of like fucking or playing out this fantasy or kink, just like completely out of like, you guys are just like out, maybe you're in the park and, speak with them, try and discuss like what their experience is, their appetite is, and just, I think, approach it from a very curious perspective, because for yourself, cool, this is something you might want to explore, but also understand from their perspective, what gets them hot and what are they curious about. And if they are curious about some things, cool, just check it out. If they have no idea, it's like, okay, cool, you have no idea. Is there a particular reason why you don't have no idea? Have you like thought about exploring it, or it wasn't a thought, maybe we could do it together? And then by understanding like their experience, you can kind of like decide how you want to play the next move. and then hopefully it gets somewhere where you're able to say, okay, cool, like, I just wanted to say that, these are some of the things that I'm into, and like I'd really love to try this out with you, and if you'd be open to at least considering it or thinking about it, and we can discuss it. What concerns do you have about it? Because maybe sometimes people have a concern of how your partner will think about you. Maybe they'll think it's derogatory, but it all depends on the relationship. Like if it has to be safe, it has to be consensual. You have to, like, your partner should know that there's nothing that you would request from your partner or do to your partner that will make you think of them in a derogatory way.
Yeah. That's a very good point. I think it also, you made a really good point about asking maybe your partner first, but it's true that many people don't even know, maybe who haven't been practicing or experimenting a lot. A lot of people would ask them and they would say, I don't know, like what are your kinks, or even like
maybe they never even thought of like, that this was that this was even something that exists in the world. It's like, oh yeah, well, there's this whole other world. Like, do you want to take my hand and we can like explore it together? Is that cool?
Actually, one good way to do it, what exists online, or you can even print it out, is basically websites where it's like a questionnaire for both partners. You fill it out by yourself, and there are all sorts of questions connected to all sorts of kinks or meeting other people. Well, everything basically sex related, but it can be like, I don't know, sex with food, using sex toys on your partner, trying certain things from like standard to like most extreme. And basically, both you and your partner answer the questions in a way, would you be down for your partner to do it on you, on yourself, or you would be down to do it on your partner, or you would be open to it or not open to it, or you would be open to it if your partner is open to it. So in this sentence, we're basically like quite detailed. And then at the end, once you both filled out the questionnaire, you see the results, and only the answers where you both, let's say, are aligned are shown. So for example, if you say you would love to like participate in a gangbang with your partner, but your partner said no, that's not something they would be interested in, the partner won't see that you would be actually down for a gangbang, but which I think like makes a lot of sense, but I think this is actually a really good way to find out or even think of something that you never thought of to try it together.
I think that's amazing, because at least the both of you would be exposed to like, oh wow, I didn't even know that this was like a thing. And it's like, okay, cool. Maybe it's something I'm curious about to like do my own research on, like, by myself, because I never even knew it existed until I saw it in this.
Exactly. And also, if you do have trusting relationship with your partner, you can always try, let's say, some alternations of kinks. So for example, if one partner is interested in trying with this current partner, like something more extreme, like, I don't know, golden shower, for example, or like blood play, maybe you can think of ways of what it can be alternated with. So there is still in this kind of play element. Was an example in Sex and the City where Carrie, the main character, Carrie Bradshaw, she had like a older guy she was seeing. He was a politician, like running for New York mayor, and he was into golden shower. He wanted her to pee on him, so someone suggested her to maybe just like pour a warm water on him in the shower, so he maybe closes his eyes and imagines that she's peeing on him, but it's actually she's not actually doing it. So he's satisfied and she is not, going against herself because she doesn't want to do it.
I think like with these things, it's often the things that are right in front of you are the things that you overlook. For instance, like your nose, right? Like you never see your nose because it's always there. So your eyes obviously like discount it, but it's there and you can like look at it. So it's the same thing in the case of like communication. Communication sounds like the most basic thing, like obviously communication, but communication in this regard is very, very difficult, and it's not so easy to like, strike up these conversations about things that are like, fundamentally like a part of you, because when you're communicating this to your partner, you're being vulnerable, and you both have to take care because it's a very special thing, and you have to have this safe space. So, just getting better at communicating together as well as both on your own, I think that's super beneficial.
For sure.
Yeah.
Shaun,
Yeah.
thank you so much for being my guest today. It was an incredibly interesting, thought-provoking, and deep episode. From like talking about vulnerability, growing up, puberty, to AI, sex agent, and to communication, which I think everything comes down to communication. This is the biggest challenge in the realm of challenge and opportunity in the realm of sexuality and intimacy. So thank you so much for being my guest. I just would like to remind all the listeners and viewers to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple Podcast, rate this podcast, share it with your friends, and please let me know what you think of it. And of course, don't forget to follow Nympho Life on Instagram. It's at nympho.life. And stay tuned for the next episodes. Thank you.